Here's something that will probably upset a lot of people. The things I'm about to tell you, most women don't even consciously recognize these patterns in themselves. And the men who figured this out, they didn't learn it from books, pickup artists, or some overpriced dating course. They learned it from years of painful trial and error, from watching relationships crash and burn, and from finally connecting the dots that nobody talks about openly. By the end of this video, you'll understand female psychology better than 95% of men ever will. And trust me, some of this might genuinely shock you. Now, before we go any further, let me be completely transparent about something. I'm a woman, and what I'm about to share isn't meant to expose some master manipulation playbook or reduce women to predictable machines. Far from it. What I want to do is bridge the gap between what women experience internally and what men observe externally. Because here's the uncomfortable reality. Most relationship problems don't stem from bad intentions. They stem from fundamental misunderstandings about how the female mind processes emotions, evaluates partners, and makes decisions. A 2022 study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that couples who had a strong understanding of each other's psychological patterns reported 67% higher relationship satisfaction. 67%. That's not a minor improvement. That's the difference between a relationship that drains you and one that genuinely fulfills you. So why don't more men understand these patterns? Simple. Nobody teaches them. Schools don't cover it. Movies get it hilariously wrong. And most dating advice out there is either written by people with zero real experience or by people trying to sell you something. But the men who've been through enough relationships, who've paid attention, who've reflected on what actually worked versus what they thought would work, those men stumbled onto truths that changed everything. And today, I'm laying it all out. Not because women are mysterious creatures that need decoding, but because understanding breeds connection. And connection is what everyone's actually chasing. Anyway, let's start with something that confuses men more than almost anything else. Women test men constantly. And here's the part that really throws guys off. Most of the time, we don't even know we're doing it. A man might be having a perfectly normal conversation with a woman when suddenly she says something slightly provocative or creates a small conflict out of nowhere, or pulls back emotionally right when things seem to be going well. His first instinct, something's wrong. She's losing interest. Maybe I said something stupid. But experienced men, they recognize this pattern immediately. They understand that this isn't necessarily a problem. It's an unconscious evaluation mechanism. Dr. David Buss, an evolutionary psychologist at the University of Texas, has spent decades studying mate selection. His research shows that women, due to higher biological investment in reproduction, evolved to be more selective and to continuously assess partner quality even after initial attraction is established. In simple terms, the female brain is wired to constantly ask one question: is this person actually who they appear to be? Think about it from an evolutionary standpoint. For thousands of years, choosing the wrong partner had devastating consequences for women and their potential offspring. So, the brain developed subtle testing mechanisms to verify a man's actual qualities versus his presented qualities. What does this look like in modern dating? She might mention another guy who's been giving her attention just to see how you react. She might be deliberately late to observe whether you handle minor frustrations with maturity or irritation. She might share something vulnerable and watch whether you dismiss it, overcomfort her, or respond with genuine understanding. Inexperienced men either fail these tests by becoming insecure and reactive, or they get angry that tests exist in the first place. But experienced men understand that these tests aren't about manipulation or games. They're about safety. They're about a woman's subconscious need to verify that the man in front of her is genuinely confident, stable, and trustworthy, not just performing those qualities temporarily. The most fascinating part when a man consistently passes these tests by remaining genuinely unmoved, not defensive, not angry, just calmly secure. The tests gradually stop because she's found what she was looking for. Here's something that experienced men learned the hard way. Usually, after several failed relationships and a lot of confusion, women process emotions differently than men. And I don't mean that in some cliche, women are emotional, men, logical way. That oversimplification has caused more relationship damage than probably any other misconception. What I actually mean is this. The female brain has a higher emotional bandwidth. Research from the University of Basel in Switzerland found that women's brains show stronger responses to emotional stimuli and retain emotional memories more vividly than men's brains do. This isn't about being more or less emotional. It's about processing capacity. Here's what this means practically. A woman might be carrying emotional weight from a conversation that happened 3 days ago that a man has completely forgotten about. She's not holding a grudge. Her brain simply processed that interaction more thoroughly and stored it more prominently. When a man says something dismissive or insensitive, he might genuinely not remember it 2 hours later, but she remembers and she's processed not just what he said, but his tone, his body language, the context, what it revealed about his character, and how it made her feel about the relationship as a whole. Inexperienced men get blindsided by this constantly. They can't figure out why she's suddenly cold or distant over something they don't even recall happening. They think she's being irrational or overreactive. But experienced men learn to pay attention. They learn that what might seem like a small moment to them could be a significant moment to her. They learn to check in, to circle back to previous conversations, to acknowledge that just because something left their mind quickly doesn't mean it left hers. This isn't about walking on eggshells. It's about understanding that emotional processing speed and depth genuinely differ, and that both experiences are equally valid. Okay, this one drives men absolutely insane, and honestly, it frustrated me too until I understood the psychology behind it. Women sometimes say the opposite of what they actually want. Not because they're trying to play games, but because their words are expressing something entirely different than a literal request. Let me give you a classic example that every experienced man eventually figured out. She says it's fine. Do whatever you want. What she actually means isn't it's fine, but it also isn't simply the opposite. What she's actually communicating is I'm hurt that you didn't already know what I needed. The fact that I have to explain it makes me feel like you don't understand me or prioritize me. See the difference? It's not about the literal content. It's about an unspoken emotional need that she might not even be able to articulate in the moment because she's processing feelings, not constructing logical statements. Dr. John Gottman, renowned relationship researcher, found that 69% of relationship conflicts are perpetual. They never get fully resolved because they're rooted in fundamental personality differences rather than solvable problems. What does get relationships through these perpetual conflicts? Partners who learn to hear the emotional need beneath the literal words. Inexperienced men take women's words at face value and then get confused or annoyed when she's still upset. But you said it was fine, they protest. Experienced men learn to ask a different question. They learn to say, okay, you're saying it's fine, but I can tell something's bothering you. Help me understand what you're really feeling. This isn't about men becoming mind readers. It's about recognizing when words aren't really about the words and creating space for the real conversation to happen. Now, we're getting to something that took most experienced men years to truly internalize, and I wish more men understood this earlier because it would save them so much frustration and confusion. What creates genuine, lasting attraction in women is not what most men think. Most men believe attraction is about looks, money, status, or being exceptionally charming. And yes, those things can create initial interest, but they don't create deep, lasting attraction. The kind where a woman actually falls for you and stays fallen. A study from the University of British Columbia found that women rated men displaying pride as significantly more attractive than men displaying happiness or neutrality. But here's where it gets interesting. The type of pride mattered enormously. Hubristic pride, arrogance, was far less attractive than achievement-based pride. What does this tell us? Women are attracted to competence, to capability, to the sense that a man has invested in himself, developed genuine skills, and takes pride in his actual accomplishments, not in empty self-promotion. Experienced men learned that the most attractive thing they could do wasn't trying to impress her. It was being genuinely focused on their own growth. their own purpose, their own life trajectory. The attraction came as a byproduct. Here's another pattern that experienced men noticed. When they stopped chasing and focused on themselves, women became more interested, not less. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about demonstrating through behavior that your life has meaning and direction independent of seeking her validation. There's also the element of emotional stability. Research from Personality and Individual Differences Journal found that emotional regulation ability was one of the strongest predictors of relationship quality. Women are subconsciously attracted to men who remain stable under pressure, who don't crumble when things get difficult, who can be a source of calm rather than additional chaos, not cold, not emotionally unavailable, just genuinely stable. Inexperienced men try to manufacture these qualities. They pretend to be busy. They fake confidence. They suppress emotions thinking that's what stability means. But experienced men know that fakery gets exposed eventually. The actual answer is doing the real work, building a life you're genuinely proud of, developing actual emotional regulation skills, and letting attraction flow naturally from who you've actually become. This is going to sound controversial to some people, but experienced men figured out something that matters more than almost anything else when it comes to women. Women need to feel safe. And before anyone gets offended, let me be clear about what I mean by that. This isn't about women being weak or needing a man to survive. Most women today are completely capable of taking care of themselves financially, physically, and emotionally. That's not the point. The point is that feeling safe with someone operates on a primal neurological level that no amount of modern independence can override. It's built into our nervous systems. The female nervous system is on average more responsive to threat cues than the male nervous system. Studies using fMRI brain scans show that women's amygdalas, the brain's threat detection center, activate more quickly and intensely in response to potential danger signals. This was a survival advantage for thousands of years, and it doesn't just turn off because we're in the 21st century now. What does this mean for relationships? A woman subconsciously scans for safety signals constantly. She's assessing whether she can relax around you, whether she can be vulnerable, whether you're predictable in a good way or unpredictable in a concerning way. Inexperienced men create unintentional danger signals all the time without realizing it. Sudden mood swings, unpredictable reactions, passive-aggressive communication, inconsistent behavior. Each of these triggers her nervous system's threat response, making her pull back emotionally, even if consciously she has no idea why she feels suddenly distant. Experienced men learn to be consistent, to be predictable in the ways that matter, to communicate clearly even when uncomfortable, to manage their own emotions rather than dumping them randomly, not because they're boring, but because they understand that safety is the foundation on which emotional intimacy gets built. When a woman feels genuinely safe with a man, safe to express herself, safe to be imperfect, safe to relax completely, something shifts in her. She opens up in ways she never could with someone who kept her nervous system on alert. And experienced men know that creating this safety isn't a weakness or submission. It's a strength that few men ever develop. Speaking of strong, independent women, and there are more of them than ever, here's a truth that confuses a lot of men today. A woman can be completely self-sufficient, have her own career, her own money, her own social life, her own everything, and still deeply want a man who makes her feel feminine, protected, and cared for. These two things aren't contradictory, but inexperienced men often think they are. They meet a successful, capable woman and assume she doesn't need anything from him. So they become passive. Stop leading. They figure she has it all handled. So why would she want his input or direction? And then they're confused when she loses attraction. Here's what's actually happening psychologically. A woman's public competence and her private emotional needs are operating on different tracks. Just because she's capable of handling everything doesn't mean she wants to handle everything, especially in a romantic context. Experienced men understand this paradox. They know that a woman can run a company during the day and still want to feel taken care of at night. that she can make major decisions independently and still want a man who has opinions, who leads in certain contexts, who doesn't abdicate all responsibility because he assumes she's got it covered. It's not about control or old-fashioned gender roles. It's about polarity. It's about the masculine-feminine energy dynamic that creates attraction. Dr. Helen Fisher, biological anthropologist and author of multiple books on love and attraction, describes this as complementarity, the drive to be attracted to qualities that complement rather than mirror our own. Many women, regardless of their professional success, are still attracted to masculine energy, to decisiveness, to quiet confidence, to someone who can be their soft place to land without them having to manage the landing. Inexperienced men either try too hard to dominate, which backfires spectacularly, or become completely passive, which kills attraction. Experienced men found the balance. They lead where it makes sense. They step back where it makes sense, and they're attuned enough to know the difference. Let's talk about something that directly affects whether a relationship deepens or dies. It's something women do naturally that most men don't even know is happening. Women evaluate partners not just based on present behavior, but by mentally projecting that behavior into the future. A woman might be with a guy who's charming, fun, and attractive right now, but unconsciously, she's running calculations. If he can't hold a steady job now, what will that look like in 5 years? If he dismisses my concerns now, how will he handle real problems later? If he's unreliable about small commitments now, can I count on him for big ones? Research from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that women more than men engage in prospective evaluation during early relationship stages, mentally simulating long-term compatibility based on current data points. This is why small things matter so much to women in ways that puzzle men. He forgot to call when he said he would. It's not just about that one phone call. Her brain is extrapolating. If he forgets small things when he's supposedly trying to impress me, what happens when he's comfortable? If he doesn't prioritize me now during the easy phase, what about during the hard phases? Inexperienced men dismiss these concerns as overreactions. It's just one time. They say you're making a big deal out of nothing, but experienced men learn that to her, it's never just one time. It's data. Her mind is building a predictive model of who you are and whether she can trust her future to you. Every action, every choice, every followed through promise or broken one gets added to that model. The good news, this works in your favor too. Consistently showing up, keeping small commitments, demonstrating reliability over time. These create compound interest in her trust account. Experienced men know that trust is built in tiny increments, through boring consistency, through doing what you said you'd do over and over until she genuinely believes you'll keep doing it. Here's one of the most counterintuitive things experienced men figured out, and it runs completely contrary to what most men think they should do. Showing vulnerable doesn't weaken attraction. Done correctly, it intensifies it. Wait, I know what you're thinking. Didn't I just spend the last several sections talking about strength, stability, and safety? How does vulnerability fit into that? Here's the nuance that inexperienced men miss. There's a difference between performative vulnerability, oversharing to seem sensitive, and earned vulnerability, sharing real things at the right time with the right person. A study from Northwestern University found that gradual reciprocal self-disclosure was one of the strongest predictors of relationship development. Keyword reciprocal. When vulnerability flows both ways, it builds intimacy. When one person dumps emotional weight while the other doesn't reciprocate, it creates imbalance and often discomfort. Experienced men learn that strength without vulnerability creates a wall. It makes a woman feel like she can never truly know him, which prevents deep emotional bonding. But vulnerability without strength creates anxiety. It makes her feel like she has to take care of him, which shifts the dynamic in attraction-killing ways. The sweet spot, being strong enough to be vulnerable, having enough emotional security to share fears, past hurts, real feelings without making it her job to fix you. Letting her see the real you, the imperfect you, while still being fundamentally solid. When a woman experiences this, when a man she respects for his strength also allows her to see his humanity, something shifts in her. She stops seeing him as a performance and starts seeing him as a person, and that's when genuine emotional attachment forms. We're nearing the end, but there's one more thing experienced men know that most men get completely backward. When it comes to attention, quality obliterates quantity. A lot of men think that giving a woman more attention means she'll be more attracted and more satisfied. So they text constantly, they're always available, they drop everything when she needs something. And then they're baffled when she starts pulling away. What's happening? She's experiencing what psychologists call psychological satiation, the phenomenon where too much of anything decreases its perceived value. When your attention is always available, it stops feeling special. It becomes expected, then obligated, then almost suffocating. Experienced men learn that scarcity creates value, not fake scarcity where you're playing games and ignoring her. Real scarcity where you have a full life, your own interests, genuine demands on your time, and the attention you give her comes from a place of wanting to connect, not needing to fill a void. The quality element matters even more. 10 minutes of fully present, phone down, genuine attention means more than 2 hours of distracted half-presence. Women can feel the difference instantly. When a man is truly with her, listening to what she's saying, remembering details, being mentally present, that attention lands differently. It makes her feel genuinely valued rather than just monitored. Experienced men also learned about attention timing. Giving attention freely when she's testing or pulling away often backfires. But giving attention when she's been warm and connective reinforces the behavior you want to see more of. It's not manipulation. It's simply understanding that positive reinforcement works on everyone, including in romantic relationships. So, there you have it. Truths about the female mind that only come from genuine experience, from paying attention, from years of learning what actually works versus what you assumed would work. Let's quickly run through what we covered. Women test men unconsciously as a safety mechanism, and the right response is calm confidence, not defensiveness or frustration. Women have higher emotional bandwidth, which means they process and remember emotional experiences more vividly than most men expect. Women often communicate emotional needs through words that don't literally match those needs, and the skill is hearing what's underneath. Genuine attraction comes from competence, purpose, and emotional stability, not from trying to impress. Women need to feel safe on a neurological level, and that comes from your consistency and predictability, not from grand gestures. Strong, independent women still want masculine energy and someone who can be a complement, not a mirror. Women project current behavior into future scenarios when evaluating partners, so small things accumulate into big conclusions. Vulnerability intensifies attraction when it comes from a place of strength, not when it dumps emotional waiting rescue. And finally, quality attention beats quantity every time because satiation kills perceived value. The men who understand these patterns aren't smarter than other men. They're just more observant. They paid the price of experience, failed relationships, confused years, painful realizations, and actually learned from it. Now you have their insights. What you do with them is up to you. But here's the thing I need you to understand before you go anywhere. Everything I just shared with you operates on an even more fundamental level when a woman is developing emotional attachment. And that's where things get really interesting because a woman who's becoming emotionally attached rarely admits it directly. In fact, she often does the exact opposite. She hides it, denies it, sometimes even acts cold precisely because she's falling hard. If you want to recognize when this is happening, when a woman's actually becoming attached, even though every surface signal says otherwise, you need to watch the video appearing on your screen right now. It's called She's Emotionally Attached but Won't Admit It. Female psychology, and honestly, it might be even more important than what you just watched because understanding the female mind is one thing. Reading what she's actually feeling underneath the surface performance, that's a completely different skill. And that video breaks it down in a way you probably haven't heard before. The link is on your screen. Click it now while you're still in this mindset because this is exactly when this information will actually stick. See you there.